Good evening. It is Friday. I hope you've all had a lovely week. Whatever you've been up to, I'll be keen to know. It's 6 o'clock, and I'm back, and I'm pleased to be joined today by another party leader. Now, if you're like me and you are politically homeless at the minute with all the nonsense that's going on in all the parties, to be honest, I don't think anybody's really claiming this open market, as it were. So I'm really keen today to speak to Kenny Smith. He's the leader of the Homeland Party. So it's an option. I know they're gathering pace, and they've certainly piqued my interest. So what we'll do, we'll get him on, and I'll fire the questions at him that you've asked me to ask. Kenny, how are you?
I'm very good, sir. Very pleased to be here and to speak to a whole new audience that maybe hasn't heard of the Homeland Party before, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity from you, Mark.
It's absolutely fine, Kenny. We need to be hearing from all parties, really. I think this next election that we've got coming, whenever that might be. Hopefully, it's a lot sooner than 4 years. I think it's a pretty open one because there's no party really that's claiming a handle on these voters that are politically homeless at the moment, and I'm one of those people. So Labour are making a terrible mess of things. I think we can all agree on that. I think Conservatives are dead for 8 years now. So then we're looking at fringe parties. I hope you don't mind me saying that, but they're fringe parties, and I'm sure you'll agree. So UKIP, Reform, and yourselves at Homeland. Reform are imploding. I'm a member of Reform. Well, I was a member of Reform, and I've cancelled that membership. I think their cloak has been pulled down and the mask has been taken off, and we can see them for who they are. Kenny, I'd like to start and ask you just a little bit about yourself, really, about your background. I know you've been in nationalist politics for a while under different organisations. So could you just tell us about your background and what's brought you here as leader of Homeland?
Yeah, I born and brought up in the Outer Hebrides, as far north and west as you could possibly go. It's probably a community that most people would consider to be rather conservative, rather religious, but they constantly voted either Labour and then latterly SNP, and it jumps between the two. But I had a wonderful upbringing in an amazing community. Went to Glasgow in my late teens and got involved with the British National Party very early on because I was incredibly patriotic. I'd already at that point realised that the mainstream parties didn't serve the people. They were pro-immigration, pro-open borders, and didn't really believe in the people. I moved to an area of Motherwell initially that was very deprived, and I could see, people who were voting Labour day in, day out, and their lives weren't being improved. The Labour Party, by their very name, you would imagine they stand up for the working class. I saw no evidence of that. They were more concerned about international matters and immigrant rights. There was a Glasgow MP, for example, who told one of our activists that he had absolutely no interest in securing the true Glaswegian vote, because if he secured the bloc Muslim vote, that was enough to get him elected. So that's all he had to do, all he was interested in. They're self-serving. The Conservatives, who, believe it or not, at one time used to be the party that ran Glasgow, by this point were nowhere. They were not interested. In the 90s, they used Scotland really as as guinea pigs. We got the council tax for anybody else. Thatcher again. She betrayed people in '79. Said she was going to be tough on immigration. They aren't. We see consistently that the Conservative Party, when they're in power, let more immigrants in than the Labour Party do. So I gravitate to the BNP very early on. And I'll be honest, it wasn't really a serious political party. It was a street movement. It was more concerned with tackling the communists than anything else. They were very active, so that there was a lot of activity. But I was surrounded by a great group of people in Glasgow who really passionately wanted to win for our people, and they helped me become a proper nationalist. And we decided we wanted to change things. We wanted the BNP to win. And over the course of the late 90s, early noughties, I was part of the team that helped really radically change what the BNP was, from a street movement to a serious political party that in pockets promoted community politics. And that was one of my things. That's what I'm passionate about. I took my politics seriously. I studied what the likes of the Liberal Democrats had done. Green Party are doing it today. And regardless of the nutty stuff that they do at a higher level, on the ground in local communities, they succeed for people. I was also going over to Northern Ireland and seeing what community politics did primarily for the Republican community. So all these people in the Unionist, Loyalist community, very passionate about being British, but their councillors and their MPs did nothing for their communities. You go to the Republican side, and they were building schools and community centres, and the place was looking cleaner. So I very quickly became to realise that if you want to help your people, you've got to do good things for them and build in their community. And I was seeing, unionists going to Republican councillors because they got stuff done. And where we implemented in the BNP, we were getting fantastic success, but it wasn't universally adopted, and that was a shame. There was also a bit of a corrupt clique within the BNP that I was constantly railing against. And I got booted out in December 2007 because I was complaining too much. An individual was had his final written warning, breached that again, was booted out, and instead of him being removed, the current leader, the leader at the time, Nick Griffin, purged me and a whole pile of others, and then there were 70 odd resignations of officers in protest. They carried on for 4 or 5 years after that. They had continued having sporadic success, but the rot was done. Once all the good guys are purged and the people promoting to politics are purged, they were on a downward trajectory.
Yeah.
So I had a few years in the wilderness. I was involved mostly with cultural groups, community groups, parish councillor for more than 10 years, more than a decade. Involved in things like Scotland First. We put on cultural events, celebrated, our heritage, and then I moved back up to the Inner Hebrides this time, back up the northwest coast, and myself and my family set up a small holding, raised sheep and chickens and turkeys and ducks, and we were living the good life, So waiting for societal collapse, and it doesn't come. So I got back involved. I got involved with an organisation, Patriotic Alternative, where I was told that they wanted to change the perception of nationalism and get rid of that guy. Sadly, that wasn't the case. I was in for about 2 years. I worked very hard to change things, and eventually gave up because the reality didn't match the promise I was given. They weren't serious about community politics or organised politically. So in December 2022, I tendered my resignation, was persuaded to stay on the back of some promises. They didn't materialise. So in the April, I followed through, and I resigned. And a large chunk of the quality people there did the same thing. They impressed on me the fact that we'd been doing decent work, good work, and they didn't want to stop. So we put our heads together and very quickly decided we would create a political party. So we did that established that on the 8th of May. And by the January 2024, we managed to successfully register a political party, something people told us was impossible. You can't register a genuine nationalist political party. We've done it. If you've got the right people on board, quality people, and you're serious and determined, you can achieve anything. That's one of my things. I'm a positive guy, and we've done it. We now have 11 town, parish, and community councillors. We will be standing in some county seats in May. And we've got other people doing things like trying to become magistrates, union reps, all sorts of things. We want to take power wherever it exists from the liberal progressives and bring it back to common sense. So my battle is not just a political one. It is one about trying to restore confidence in nationalism. For me, it is a worldview that's natural and common sense. Standing up for your own people. You do it for your family, you do it for your community, you do it for your nation. You don't wish anybody else any harm, but if you do put that positive work, you can see it. And I think part of the problem with nationalism, as it was back in the BNP, as it was in the Patriot Alternative, is that if you tolerate the negative elements, the antisocial people, the cranks, the weirdos who damage what nationalism actually is, who don't fulfill the image of what a nationalist should be, if they live up to the stereotype or the Hollywood fantasy of what a nationalist is, you
Yeah.
damage the movement. And I'm fiercely determined to make sure these people don't get anywhere near this Homeland Party. And I think that's why we now are having this level of success. We're meeting people one-to-one, face-to-face, and they're saying, these guys are exactly what they say on the tin. We're the Ron Seal of nationalism. We're not kidding anybody on. We're not trying to lead people down dark paths. We're doing the opposite. We're taking young men and young women who are being enticed into these, cranky extremist groups, and we're taking them into serious community politics where they can actually be a benefit to their community. So I think that's why we've got that youthful energy and that determination to do good, and that can't be beaten.
Absolutely. I think the general public just want transparency at this point. Labour have come into power based on a manifesto of lies. They've gone back on everything that they said and hit people in the pocket, vulnerable people as well, pensioners, disabled, etc. What's your vision and purpose for the Homeland Party? And what I mean by that is, what are your three key policies? I'm pretty sure I know one of them. But can you just give us what the vision is for the Homeland Party and where you see yourself come next election?
Yeah. So where we see next election is a big question. I'll leave that at the end. But it's very simple for us. Our overriding policy is to put our people first. And people will say to you that the Homeland Party are a one-issue party. That's nonsense. But what we do recognise that we are not going to save our people and change society for the better if we do not implement remigration. Every policy discussion that our policy team does starts on the premise, you pick a subject, what is good for our people? What do we need to do here? So it's very straightforward. And every time we've done policies, so we've published housing already, we're doing health at the moment, it's only a week or two away. Every time we do a policy, it ends up tying in some way to mass immigration and remigration. We are facing an existential threat as a people here. We've produced the demographic change leaflets, and that shows you how dramatic the change is. And it's accelerating, it's speeding up. So if we don't stop the boats, deport the illegals, the criminals, and the subversives, and then put in policies in place to encourage people to remigrate. And that's the thing. People very often confuse what remigration is. Remigration doesn't mean kicking in somebody's door, hauling them out, and shipping them away. Nonsense. We are good, honest, humane people. So we would implement policies that put our people first, stop giving these people advantages through the DEI schemes, throwing money at them. And when these people then start losing these leg ups they're giving against their people, because let's face the reality, in every community around this country, we are second class. And young white males in particular are the ones who are second class. On housing lists, we're getting knocked down. New people come in from Syria, from Iraq, and bang, they're popped up a level from people who've already sat in that housing list for 4 or 5 years. That stuff's got to stop. No immigrant should get a council housing. No immigrant should get benefits, as far as I'm concerned. So once you take all these things away that entice them here and allow them to stay here, they're not going to want to stay here. So they'll be knocking on our remigration centre doors before we're even opened in the morning and said, please, can you help get me and my family return home and make that easy for us? So that's what we want to do. Remigration is the sensible, it's the humane approach. So
So,
that's the right policy.
sorry, Kelly, with your remigration policy. So basically, what you're saying is, you make the UK less appealing for people to come in the first place, and you make it more appealing for them to leave moving forward.
Well, it's more simple than that. They won't be allowed to come.
Okay.
We'll use our borders the way they're supposed to be used. There is no reason why the boat crossings can't be stopped in one evening. You know, if we used our military, the best military in the world, if our Royal Marines were put on the water to defend our borders, it would be done overnight. Simple as. So we don't need the illegal boat crossings, but they're coming in by ferries, they're coming in by planes, they're coming in by all sorts of means.
Yeah.
You could stop that very easily if your border force had teeth, if they actually did what they're supposed to, if we put some effort into it. You know, I've been traveling a fair bit around Europe recently, and border control is pretty easy at airports. I don't know why they keep failing. If they can search us, make us take our shoes off, our belts off, jackets off, you know, shirt patted down, why can't they do that to all the rest of them? They've got scanners for lorries, all sorts. They have the technology, they have the manpower, they just don't have the will, and we do. So there would be no entries. So then it's then easy for you to identify and decide how you're dealing with people. So the people who aren't integrating, the people who are trying to change or wanting, people who aren't working, people who commit crimes. You know, you only have to look at crime statistics to see, you know, it is not the indigenous people who are the people who are committing the majority of crimes. And every time they break the law, they should know not only are they getting arrested, but their home families getting deported. We're going to remigrate a lot of them. That will hopefully make our streets safer very quickly. But when they do break it, it's gone away. No elected officials, you know, should be dual passports, come from any other country. There are so many things we can do, even with the licensing laws. If alcohol is haram to you, you shouldn't be getting a drinks license for your corner shop. Simple as. It's so easy to change the climate in this country, to put our people first and encourage these people to want to go back to their homelands where they can live the lifestyle they're wanting.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense that they're over here, and well, we know that what they try and implement, Sharia law and all this kind of thing. I just wanted to pick you up on your remigration. Have you estimated what some sort of numbers that would entail for remigration? I mean, somebody mentioned 10 million people. I wouldn't have thought it was that high at all. Do you know a number? What sort of numbers do you think?
Off the top of my head, no, but it's going to be in the millions. It really is. You know, the figures that are in prison, for example, I think it's between 20,000, 30,000, something like that. That's an easy exit, but it's minuscule. The people who are illegals, that's in the millions already. You know, I think in the system is it's like 2 million to 3 million already in the system. That's a massive amount. You know, you then consider the borders wave and you examine people who are coming in and they're not working. How many of them are on benefits? You know, the thing we have to remember is the establishment have not been honest with our people for decades. They don't even record the figures properly. They're removing questions from censuses, so we can't ask them. You know, police reports, NHS. They're deliberately removing the information we need to assess these things. So it's going to be a big process, but it's very clear. You know, how many people are claiming benefits who are not being productive members of society? How many of them are illegal? Every single time you hear the Home Office doing raids on some of these barber shops, on these takeaway shops, on the nail salons, the candy bars, they are arresting people. I think one of the most recent one I've seen was they raided something like 20 shops and got 120 people. You know, these people are not even on the books. So how do you estimate how many people you're going to remigrate when even the government doesn't know how many they are and they're not being honest with the stats? So I would suggest that whatever figures the government give us, the true figure is going to be far higher. And again, it's just down to the will. Anybody who's rounded up and doesn't have citizenship on papers, that's an easy gone, isn't it? But those ones who are legal citizens, again, I've got to reiterate. I think some people are keep saying that remigration means mass deportations. It doesn't. We're not about destroying families. We're not about ripping up families. I think another point to make very clear is those people who have married into the British family, they're British. If they're. I got asked a question the other day about a Portuguese lady. Said, I can't remember if she's half Portuguese or her child's half Portuguese. But if you're married to an Englishman and you're Portuguese and your kids, half and half, that you're part of the British family. There's nothing happened to you. You're here. It's those people who haven't assimilated, and we see it all the time. If you go to any big town where there is a sizable proportion of any one community from around the world, they create their own ghetto, their own wee enclave, and they practice their ways, they promote their ways. They don't even speak English half the time. There are people in the system getting benefits who can't even speak English, and they're second and third generation. That is insane. And yeah.
It's terrible. It really is. I mean, the way that they are attacking and taking money from our disabled, our pensioners, and at the same time housing illegal immigrants in 4-star hotels and giving them 3 square meals a day and access to doctors, dentists, and etc. It absolutely blows my mind. And I'm very much of the feeling that if we don't get a grasp on this, like now, like literally now, then it could be a long time before we could lose what we've fought for in the past. Saying this is what I say about most parties that say so. Nick Tenkani will say similar things like we need to do this, and this. Now he can say and you can say whatever you want, because at this stage the likelihood of you getting into power is slim, and that's a fair comment to make. So what I think is that people can say the word, and it's implementing it that's going to be the way forward. So you're saying about remigration and putting a border control in, which is great. That's what we need. How do you go about implementing that? You're obviously going to need to come out the ECHR. Would that be one of the first things that you would do?
Yes, 100%. The thing that people forget is that Parliament is sovereign. If you have central government power, you can change the law, and you can legislate to also stop the courts. The problem we have at the moment is there's no will from the Labour Party, or previous to that from the Conservative Party, to actually change the law and stop mass immigration. So they're not enacting any laws that allow them to do the things they need. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's a big circus. If we had central government power, we legislate for it, and nobody can change that. Not the courts can't change it. Nobody can change it as long as you implement it correctly in the Parliament, and that's the big problem. So it's easy. We're not going to be subservient to any of that foreign legislation that hampers the sovereign rights of our people. We will implement what's right for our people. So yes, these different conventions and laws, we will withdraw from them if it's necessary. We are not beholden to any other ideology. We are for our people only. So we are not Zionists. We are not Islamicists. We are for our people, and that's what it's about. I think too many people, for me, who parade about as being patriotic or being right wing, seem to want to wave the flags of foreign powers and ignore our own people. Now we've just been talking about poverty. For me, that is one of the most important things we do. It's often forgotten. We are still living in a cost of living crisis right now. And I speak to people every week who struggle to feed themselves. They'll feed their children and then they skip a meal. or they can't buy clothing for the kids to go to school, or one of the kids has got a hole in their trainers and they can't afford to do it. That's our people. That's what we're leaving our people with. And I think the difference between Homeland Party and some of these other parties that you've spoken about is that we are actually passionate about our own people. It's the only thing we care about. And what we do differently, we don't do parades, we don't do marches, we don't do flag waving things. We actually get involved in local communities and fight for these people. The majority of the work that the Homeland Party does, we don't even publicise. Some of the seats we are fighting now, we're not even going to pipe up, because we want our people to focus on the people in these wards, in these communities, the people whose trust and confidence we're trying to win. We're not about being a pantomime act and dance about in the street. It does nothing. People have been doing that for the last 15 years to no effect. It's not stopped one rape gang. It's not brought power anywhere. We're doing it differently. And we do understand the scale of the problem. We're under no illusions. Look, we're tiny. We're closing in on 1,300 members. But for me, that's incredible after 2 years from no finance. We've funded that ourselves, and we haven't had a leg up from anybody other than a couple of the smaller independent media channels. And yourself, I think you're probably the only fourth independent outlet that's ever promoted us. So the position we're at now is incredible, and it's testament to the work we're doing. And our work is not online. People say, "Oh, you're just an online phenomenon." We are more effective and more active in the real world in local communities up down the country than we are on the internet, and that's why we are going to succeed. That's why we are determined, because we are laying foundations that are going to give us a power base and allow us to step up. Now, you asked earlier about 2029. It seems like a long, long way away from me, because in September last year, we had about 240, 250 members. Now we're up at, closing in at 1,300 in a short space time. In the past month, I think we've taken on 500 members who have mostly come because reform are failing. The amount of people that come on sickened with what's happened there. So I honestly can't tell what's going to happen for the Homeland Party between now and 2029. I would love us to fight parliamentary seats, Westminster seat. We're not going to win that general election, but we could be challenging for seats, because it's going to depend on the people that come on board with us, the effort they put in. Because again, that's one of the things for Homeland for me is it's not about Kenny Smith or Steve Laws or Ali Cave or Pete North or any of the prominent people we've had. Our party is built on the people who become community leads in their local areas. We won't be parachuting anybody into any seat to fight for a seat just because they're a celebrity or a big name. The people who do the hard work on the ground will be the people who do it, because that's one of the things I think, you've seen it as well in reform. I know, for example, a guy in a constituency, just 2 constituencies up, who worked incredibly hard for reform, took them from nowhere to second at the general election. I think you get 26% of the vote. Beat this Tory, this crooked Tory, into third place. Nigel then, I think it was, I can't remember if I said earlier on this year or was it late last year, did a press conference parading this guy, welcomed in as the ex-Tory MP, and saying he will be the next candidate in that constituency. The lad who built the branch, came second, wasn't even notified, wasn't told anything. He's trounced this guy, exposed this guy for the crook he is, and he's been completely sidelined for this Tory wet celebrity. There's no loyalty. There's no desire to have the people who are building your party take the control, and that's something we're very passionate about doing.
I genuinely believe they have lost a golden opportunity. I really do. I think they're like I said earlier, their massacre's gone. What Nigel, his popularity grew from the things that he was saying about putting British first, about immigration being their number one priority, etc., etc., etc. And what he's done since he's become an MP is absolutely bizarre in my eyes. It's like exact opposite of what he's stating. I don't know why that is. I have my own opinion of why that is. I just think he's a controlled opposition. Kenny, you've talked a lot already about community politics. You've emphasised a focus on sensible nationalism. I'd like you to explain what you mean by sensible nationalism through community politics. Can you explain how that looks like in practice and how it benefits the local communities, please?
Yeah. Sensible nationalism to me is just honest nationalism. It's just us presenting our platform and keeping the dafties away. There's nothing more fancy about it than that. You know, I truly believe that nationalism has been besmirched for years by crooks and cranks and negative antisocial elements. So sensible nationalism is us just, behaving ourselves, putting our best foot forward, presenting yourself in the right way, watching your language, and having that social responsibility, really. That you know, we all remember. Well, you're much younger than me, Mark, but I remember that in the community that I grew up in, it wasn't just your parents that told you off; the neighbours would too. People straight away. So, and if there was somebody out who wasn't cleaning their clothes or cleaning their stairs, one of the neighbours would chat the door and says, "You missed your turn, Mrs. Brown." Everybody bought into making society and community good, and that's what we do. Our ethos and team is, if we see somebody stepping out of line, one of our team will do it. So that's easy. That's a sensible nationalism. What is community politics? That for me is engaging in the life of your community, taking an active role and having a positive influence. So we encourage our people to, politics is not for everybody. It is at the local level. It's one of these thankless tasks. It's going to be boring. It's potholes, it's street lights, it's broken fences, dog mess. That's the other big one, isn't it? But it is getting involved in local community and trying to help, because so many people have opted out and left it. And what happens is that the void then gets filled by the cranks and weirdos that want to take £10,000 from your parish council budget away from looking after the local kids' park and organise a pride display.
Yeah.
Let's make all the flowers into a rainbow, and we'll hang a rainbow flag from every council building, instead of getting new play equipment for the kids when the other one's dilapidated and broken. So it's things like that. We start off at the lowest level, and the more power you amass, the more things you can change. But it is really just telling our people, if you believe in nationalism, you believe in looking after your people, looking after your community. So I actually follow through on that. Become that leader you want to see. We've got a whole pile of slogans in the Homeland Party. That's one of them. Be the leader you want to see. Stop complaining and moaning about things. Brits are great about complaining, but we're often quite shy to actually do anything about it. And that for me is madness, because see, when you look at the history of our nation, these British Isles, we've invented most things in the world. We've conquered half of it. We are incredible people.
Yeah.
It's in our DNA. We can do whatever we want to do. And the problem for me is that most people have decided, nah, sod it. And part of that is, I'm not under no illusions about this. The British state, the media, academia, all these places have been infiltrated, and they have been working against our people for decades, telling us to hate our history, hate who we are, what we are. Don't have pride in yourself. Don't have pride in your ancestors. We are vilified and condemned for anything we've ever done. And for me, that's outrageous. And one of the things that I try to teach people, stop being scared of what they say. Stop being scared of what they call you. There's nothing wrong with saying you love your people. You've got pride in your ethnicity and your heritage and what your ancestors have done. I'm not ashamed of any of that. And what's more than that, I want my people to thrive in my community, in my homeland, and I don't care what anybody else says. And until we get to that stage where more people are doing that and stand up and say, look, we're not bad people. We're not wanting to oppress people. We're not wanting to enslave people. This is about our people, giving us the future our children deserve. Because right now, there are young men and women who can't get good jobs, still living at home because they can't afford to buy a house. Some of them can't afford to buy a car, never mind a house. When you see the cost of insurance, you know, so if you can't leave home, the chance of you getting married are slim. Sometimes I know there's people in our party who are married couple who are living with one of the parents, with you know their in-laws or whatever, and because they can't afford a house, they're saving up. The chance of them doing is free. And then when you're in that situation and you got a husband and wife still living with one of the mums and dads, are you going to have kids and bring them into the world? No. And then even when they do strike out, get a house of their own, they're watching the bills all the time. They say, "Look, I can't raise a family." That's the most horrific thing for me of the lot of it, that people are choosing not to have children because of the economic circumstances, because of the community they live in. I spoke to somebody else just last week, who told me the area of Nottinghamshire, of Nottingham City that I live in, is not a place I want to have children in because it's grim for white people. So you know that everything is connected to mass immigration. Everything is connected to why we need remigration to make things better. I'm hearing people keep telling us, "Oh, well, we need to decrease the birth rate of the indigenous people." But any scheme you introduce right now without remigration is going to benefit the people who are already having lots of children already. You know,
Let's,
so
let me just
remigration.
jump in there, Kenny, because I did get a question from an account called Proud Angloid, who was talking about white people recreating. How would you tackle that, though? Did you think it is an issue? Because I do think it's an issue. You know, we've got ethnic minorities that are breeding many children, and like you say, British families just can't afford to, and they're a bit more sensible about it. So if families are not having babies, or they're moving away because they can't afford to live here, how do we tackle that? How do we get that right?
Again, you won't get it right until remigration is introduced. Other nations, like Hungary, for example, have been able to reverse a declining birth rate and increase it. You put in tax incentives for the families, or you reduce taxes, whatever.
Yeah.
It is so easy to do. You know what would be good? Make communities safe. Allow people to afford a house. You know, produce an environment that was family friendly, so that only one member of the household has to go out to work, so the wife can stay home and have kids if she wants to, or the husband can stay home. You know, it's a modern world. If the husband wants to be the house husband, you know, fine. But right now, society isn't conducive to that, and there's nothing you can do. Especially we've got equality acts right now. You couldn't implement this tomorrow because this legislation would say you couldn't discriminate in favor of the indigenous people.
Yeah.
So it has to be done hand in hand with remigration. However, I'm also, you know, a wee bit of a student of history and stuff like that, and population levels fluctuate constantly. So it's not unusual for there to be periods of low birth rates, and these things do tend to change naturally. But mostly it depends on how safe and prosperous a nation is. And again, it's one of these things that I passionately believe in, that if we introduce remigration, we instantly make our country safer for women and children, and even for young men. We make it safer, and we also make it more prosperous. You know,
I think
people
you're quite
start
right.
getting jobs. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I think many people just think that because people can't afford to have children, but you're quite right. It's about bringing them up in a safe environment as well. I think that's really important. Um, as I said to you before we came on air and on X, actually, I've had so many questions put in for you, more than anybody. I've done plenty of interviews, and I've never had the responsive questioning like I had when I asked if people wanted to ask a question to yourself. A lot of the questions were about your remigration policy, but a lot that came up was the economy and how you would kickstart the economy. I think we can both agree that Rachel Reeves is making a pig's ear of it. I mean, every families will be £500 better off come 2030. Hardly gets me jumping about for joy. So Rupert 4 p.m. reform until then. That's his account. He said, "How will you get the economy going? What would be your plan to kickstart the economy?"
Again,
especially, and just to tie into that, especially when remigration isn't going to be a case of saying see you later. It's going to cost money to do that. So how do you manage the economy whilst putting your main policy, which is remigration, into effect?
Very easy. I'll start with the affordability first, which is remigration. So if you immediately stop dishing out benefits and money, hard benefits, housing, welfare payments to these people that shouldn't be getting it, and you end all the DI schemes, there will be literally billions upon billions of pounds free for us to invest back in the economy. And the funny thing is, people say, "Oh, but you'll blow all that in remigrating people." You actually won't. It is the Germans did a study recently, and they reckoned it was going to cost £48 a person to remigrate people. If you were going to do the ones, for example, who are illegals and criminals at the moment, you write them up, get them on the plane. The cost of the plane, cost to the staff, cost to the fuel, £48 a person. That's nothing. People would donate that if they thought it was
I was about to say, where do I put my 50 quid?
Yeah. So and then if you include private enterprise in that initiative, so we're an entrepreneurial nation. We want to encourage that kind of level of free enterprise and people to have success. They will buy into it. Ryanair last year told the Tory government they would help with the Rwanda scheme. So there's a whole airline saying, if there's money, if there's contracts available, we could do it. So we don't have to buy any of the hardware, none of the planes, all that. They've got the airports are there. They'll just put on, we draft a tendering process. They apply, win the contract. Bob's your uncle. There's remigration flights happening. So for me, it's very simple. There will be a lot of money available. One of the big things for me has always been we need to reinvest in hard industry. British steel, for example, used to be the envy of the world. When I moved to Motherwell in 1991, Ravenscraig had just been shut down, and it was unbelievable that happened because they had some of the best statistics on not just in quality but in productivity levels from any steel plant in the whole of Europe, and they shut it down deliberately. Took all these highly skilled men and wiped it out. That place doesn't even exist now. There's housing being built on it. There's a sports facility built on now, but and we seen the closure in Wales last year as well. That's unbelievable that we do not have our own steel manufacturing anymore. I used to work in the oil industry at an oil fabrication yard, and we had a cold steel rolling machine, only one of two in the UK that would bend this 100 mil, 200 mil thick steel without a heat application. And everybody used to say to us that if the company ever sells this machine, this yard will never ever open up again properly and be productive. And it used to hire hundreds of men. And that's what happened. They sold this machine to Malaysia or somewhere like that, and it's never been the same. That yard still exists, but they have 40 men making one or two wind turbines. They're not building jackets for oil rigs anymore. And we have decimated so many industries like that. The car industry used to be phenomenal in this country, all sorts of things. We need heavy, hard industry to give our people worthwhile jobs. We shouldn't be a service industry nation, but that's what we've been turned into. So we need to get meaningful, worthwhile jobs. And we want to, the other thing that they've done with all these things is they've tried to make sure that we can't be self-sufficient. So you need to look at what does our nation need and invest in these areas and build these things up because they've been decimated. So we'll almost be starting from scratch, but it's easy to do. You can do that with incentives, and there can be some limited immigration investment from overseas for these specific jobs, but they're given guest worker status, or they're, temporary things. And the other thing is, in terms of things like doctors, dentists. The dentist, for example, is a good one. Do you know that the government puts a cap on the number of native people who can train to be dentists in a year? But they put no cap on the number of people who can be taken in from overseas to study to be dentists.
Doesn't surprise me, but no, I didn't know it.
That is mental. That's again, and Keir Starmer said this publicly, didn't he? There's been a deliberate effort to demographically change us and do things, and it's initiatives like that. So when we put a bar on people coming into the country, when we start remigrating people, there is going to be an absolute boom time for the British economy. There's all these buildings that are going to need demolished, fixed up. The building trade in particular, there will be people increasing their wages to get apprentices in, because there's going to be not enough young men who wanting to do these jobs. So I believe that's, it's all tied in. Like I said, everything comes back to the problems created by mass immigration, and what we can do with remigration will revolutionize this country, radically change what happens, and you will have an absolute economic boom. We will be prosperous, we will be happy, people will be having children, hubs will be opening. We might even have, things might be so good, people might only have to work a 30-hour week instead of a 38-hour, because the countries can be so good,
That would be lovely. I want to talk to you about youth engagement. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but when I was doing my research, I noted that you've got a significant proportion of your membership is under 30. I mean, you might put me right on that. But what do you think draws younger people to your party? And to tie into that, Sip Vicious account name, he said that over 60s age group tend to vote more than that younger demographic. So how do you intend to tap into that audience as well? So a two-part question.
Yeah, very true. 70% of our membership is under 30. Despite my youthful good looks, I am 52, 53 next month, and I do possibly feel like a dinosaur half the time when I enter the room. The language of the youth is something I'm constantly asking. What does this mean? What does that mean? Or there's some gag that goes over my head because it's youth speak. But we've attracted these people because we are the only people speaking up for them. We are the only people giving them hope. The future of any nation is their youth, and everything we are standing for, everything we're fighting for, is to give them a future. I might not be around to see the fulfillment of what happens. How glorious this nation's going to be once remigration is fully implemented. It's these younger people who will, and these people who will benefited. And I strongly believe, we're second class in our own homeland, but the most vilified people are, young white males. The Scottish government, I can't remember, 2 years ago now, produced this hate monster campaign where they literally said, the devil incarnate is young white males. It's absolutely disgusting. Everywhere you go, people are putting down on them and holding them back. We're opposite. We're wanting to give these people confidence. We want to give them strength. And when they come into us, we're helping educate them. We're teaching them community politics, but we're also offering the opportunity to have leadership roles, to come in and train other people, do stuff behind the scenes of the infrastructure. We're giving these people a hope back. We're giving them confidence, and they're telling them life can be different. One of the things that really hit home for me, my partner Claire was born and brought up in Slough, which is the town in the whole UK who's got I believe the least native white people. And her childhood was very different from mine. I had a glorious childhood. She ran the gauntlet every single day between different ethnic groups, targeting her at different times for different things. And it wasn't until she moved to Devon that she realised life could be different. There was a different world. People stopped and talked to each other. They helped each other, looked out for each other. Not everybody lived like that. But now, more and more places in the country are experiencing that. They don't know how good things could actually be because they've never experienced it. One of the other things, like when I was growing up, inner city kids were often taken to the countryside, for a wee holiday kind of thing. And I don't think that happens so much because the establishment and the education system are terrified to teach these people. They don't have to live like they do in the cities. So, we're doing that. We're getting people interested in their fitness. We're getting people interested in reading and education, getting them away from porn, away from extremism, getting them involved in life, getting them out. Some of them is just getting them out of the bedroom, meeting other people. The amount of young kids that I'm meeting who are saying it's great just to meet up and talk and feel that I'm not alone. So I think that's what we're doing, and if we can do this properly, we are going to produce a whole generation of young people who become leaders in the community. In across the continent, the statistics are showing increasing numbers of young men and young women and women of all ages are starting to see nationalism as beneficial for them. There's nobody who's going to benefit more from remigration than the women and the kids, because when you see the crimes committed, they're the targets most of the time.
Absolutely, I think you're quite right, Kenny. To be honest, I personally believe we've got an issue with idle youth. It just doesn't pay to work. And when and Labour, to be fair, they are trying to tackle it. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Younger people below the age, I think it was 20, 21 maybe, not allowed to claim certain benefits for mental health and things like that. Instead, they're going to push them into a work and try and incentivize them to find work and prosper that way. Callum has asked, how do you incentivize those who don't want to work?
Up their benefits. If you're not prepared to be a productive member of society, why are we going to fund it? If you are able, if you're assessed and you can't, fair enough. We should help these people in society that aren't able. That's normal. We're a civilized society. We should do that. But right now, I believe there is this mental health crisis amongst our youth, amongst our young people. There are young men taking their lives every single week. It's grim, and I've got 3 daughters. My eldest ones are in their late teens, and they've been telling me for years. Everybody in their school, in their high schools, wants to be labelled with some kind of autism or some kind of sexual thing, so that they can be labelled as having a mental health problem, because that gives them days off school. Sometimes it'll aid their family financially. There's all sorts of things going on to encourage that. And normal kids are the ones who are getting penalised and left out. Some of these other kids, they can't play up in school and they get taken on holidays. They get adventure trips and stuff like that. So there's a major crisis when it comes to mental health in this country. There's a lot of people claiming sick, and look, I'll admit, for some families, it makes absolute economic sense to stay on benefits rather than get a job. And I can understand it, and I will not condemn anybody for that, because if you've got a society now where you can look after your family better on benefits than you could do with a proper job, I completely understand it, and I will never condemn it. But what we need to do is change society so that that is not the case. And one of the problems is we've got mass immigration that's driving wages down. It's driving conditions down. So good jobs are hard to find. People are not, for healthcare, getting appointments. You can't get doctors. You can't get dentists. Seeing a specialist, it's like a year's wait. So again, I'm like a broken record. I keep coming back to remigration and mass immigration, but it is literally all connected. And the only way we're going to fix the benefit problem is by putting our people first and stop shelling out constantly for other people. And then we can look after the health of our nation, and not just the physical health, but the mental health.
Whilst we're talking about children and schools and such, what's your this is a message from Tilly Turner. She's basically said, what's your views on the current education system, the woke ideology in schools, and I mean, I've seen a few things recently of teaching white children how to put on a hijab and things like this. Your views on that, and where do you think we are as a nation, education wise?
Sack a lot of them. Sack a lot of them. Any of these people that step out of line, teaching our people these subversive stuff, bang, out of the job. There's no two ways about it. The curriculum, I think school for most people doesn't serve its purpose. It doesn't teach people how to live in the real world. They're putting in all these nonsense subjects, but even academically, they're does every kid need to know algebra? Instead of practical living, we should be sending more people to colleges to become tradesmen and architects and whatever than we should have going through university and learning, doing courses about Coronation Street. It's utterly nonsense. How many of these people are arts and media students, or something completely worthless in the real world? So it does, like everything else in society at the moment, it needs a complete overhaul. But anybody who's pushing the dangerous stuff needs to go, and that's easy to sort. Um, every one of us right now who has kids can have an impact on that, because, and I was involved in this. I was treasurer of my kids' parent council, and in the area that I was, the parent council gets to select the shortlist for the headmaster. So you can literally get involved in your parent council and ensure your school is not run by one of these liberal, progressive, woke lunatics. That's something every single one of us do. We love our kids. We're invested in our kids. Get involved in your parent council, and you can make an impact in this almost immediately. There was we've got a councillor in Lincolnshire, Andy Piper, fantastic fella. He told the story of one of his team up there. Exactly that. There were some woke ideology published and been fed to his kids in the school. He fought and he challenged the school. It took about 6 months, but they've now removed that from the curriculum. That's what one individual did in their local community. Imagine if every one of us here did that. I don't know what the view figures are, Mark. I know you've got a big audience, but if even half your audience who've got children became involved in the parent council or the PTA, I guarantee you, within 6 months, you'd all be seeing a benefit for the work you do in these parent councils and PTAs.
Absolutely, absolutely. You've talked. I've seen you mention the ladder strategy to build influence from the ground up. Can you just explain to the viewers what the ladder strategy is and how that works in practice?
Yeah, it's about being realistic and pragmatic. We're 1,300 people strong. We are not winning parliamentary seats right now. We are not. There's this misconception amongst a lot of the patriotic community that is, if you just tell people what the truth is and the story is, put that leaflet through their door, you're automatically going to wake them up and they're going to vote for you. It's utter nonsense. The only way you're going to win people's support is having a positive impact in their lives, and that's the honest truth. That's why community politics is so powerful. If you do that at a local level and show, you're talking to these people, you're meeting these people, you work with these people, making a positive impact in their lives. That's what they believe. So then, if some of these much discredited left-wing organisations come around with one of their usual smear leaflets, or there's some kind of nonsense in the press saying, "Oh, they're fascists, they're Nazis," these people not only don't believe it, they don't care. They couldn't care less, because well, actually, I've met these guys. They are fantastic. They've cleaned up my community. They've fixed my fence. They've got the council to do this. I've been complaining for years. They haven't done it. These guys got involved and they made the council do it. They've dealt with this issue, that issue. That's what changes people's lives. So the ladder strategy is basically us taking recognizance of the fact that we are small. We cannot win a parliamentary seat. What is the point of us doing what people have been doing for decades, throwing money at a general election seat to get 0.3% of the vote, 0.7% of the vote? The strategy should be win at parish, town council level, then challenge for the district seats and the county seats. And when you start building up and you see you've got a support, challenge for the parliamentary seats when you believe you can get 5% and save your deposit. Because that's 500 quid you've not lost that you can then spend on community activities later on. And just keep building rung by rung by rung. That is what the Liberal Democrats do in local areas. That's what the Green Party have started doing with tremendous success. They don't throw money away all around the country. Most of their candidates are paper candidates because they realise if they invest in the areas where they've got the community support, they'll win. Their leader in Bristol, every single council seat in her parliamentary constituency was already Green. And people say, oh, I can't believe they won so handsomely. I could, because they already controlled every council seat in the area. It's common sense. It's normal. That's the ladder strategy. You build up where your strength. And for me, the ladder strategy that we practice, the Homeland Party, is different from its original concept, because we don't pick by geographic area based on demographics or based on previous voting patterns. We choose our target areas based on our people, on our community leads, the people who are putting effort in the local community. If people aren't active and putting effort in the local community, our hope is that we'll say, well, you're not a Sanders candidate unless you put the effort in. Obviously, we're very young at the moment. We're going to have to break that rule quite a wee bit now, and we've to continue the progress. We are standing people at the county council elections at the moment who haven't put in the 6 months' work. Some have only put in a couple of months' work, but we want to keep the momentum going. So we are doing that. But generally, what we're going to be looking for our people going forward is, I want 6 months hard work in your community before you get endorsed as a candidate, so that you've got a track record of helping people and working for people, and the vote you get will not be demoralising around the country.
It's a great stance to take. James Mack, as funny you should just mention that. You seem to be flowing with my questions quite nicely. James Mack said, is the ultimate goal to field candidates in all constituencies? And how will you raise the capital to be able to do that? Should that be your long-term plan?
Of course it is. We want the Homeland Party to be in power everywhere, because we know we'll make people's lives better. But again, ladder strategy, being pragmatic, being realists, it's going to very much depend on the people that come on board. We have areas at the moment of the country where we have 30, 40 members, but no branch organiser, no county organiser, because nobody has come forward to say, I'll apply for that position and I'm prepared to do it. I'm very comfortable with that. I want a branch organiser. I want somebody leading the thing. But if there's people just going out there and leafing by themselves, that's fine. But our growth is going to be built on people. So we're very comfortable with areas not to have leadership at the moment. Our plan is everywhere we'll have leadership. We want, eventually, once we've got all these county leaders, we'll break it down and do constituency leaders or local authority leaders. We have a fully laid out plan of how we're going to develop and build, but it is completely dependent on getting the right people on board. That's why it's important. People say, well, how can you make sure the Homeland Party maintains what it's doing now and the ethos it's doing now? And my answer to that is get on board and make sure it's that way. We are led and governed by our members. The work that they do in local communities is what shapes our party. Nobody's joining Homeland Party because of what I say or what Steve Law says. They're joining it because of what the people in the local communities are doing. We're seeing that, particularly in Kent, where Steve Law's at the moment. That branch has exploded because there's 6 and 7 community leads down there, all working hard. The same, Northwest, we didn't have any branch organisers in Northwest until can't remember, was it late last year or early this year. Now we're recruiting people through the roof because we've got three fantastic community leads. I actually spoke to one this week, and again another one in Cumbria. That there is this energy and vitality coming from the people who are on the ground, putting the effort in. And yes, there's momentum in places like Twitter, but it's been driven by people. We're meeting people all the time. We're having meetings. We're doing local activism, leafleting, cleanups, all sorts of things. Like I said before, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. We've got people saving bus routes, fighting solar farms, working on planning permission things. The range of work schedule. I honestly I can't keep up. That's the honest truth. I think last week there was there was so much going on. I forgot even to mention till 3 days later we had a new councillor. That's how busy things are.
That's good. It's good that it's heading in that direction. You mentioned a couple of questions ago about criticism and left-wing organisations calling us fascists and far right, and I've been called far right last year when I got jailed for commenting on our kids being murdered.
Yes.
And it boils my, I won't swear because you don't like it. It boils my urine. So a question from a guy called Muttley. He said, how do you tackle criticism that the party has, in his words, has neo-Nazi roots? And how do you counteract that with organisations like Hope Not Hate and people that when they see an organisation that is for the people, that talks about deportations and stuff like that, you're instantly classed as racist? And what's your response to that, and how do you tackle it?
Yeah, again, this is a really easy one for me. It's very, very simple. Anybody nowadays is called fascist, Nazi, racist. They're even calling Labour Party MPs these names. It's not just even Tories now and UKIP or Reform or Homeland. Anybody who speaks out against the establishment orthodoxy and particularly against the trans agenda or immigration is automatically labelled with these stupid names. And our stance is don't care. It means nothing. They've been overused so much, they should have no effect. They're hoping that these things will put you off, being called these names to put you off, and they're hoping that some level of social ostracism will kick in because your friends will disown you if you say that. Now, if you've got friends who believe you to be these things simply because you have a different political point of view, they're not really your friends. Don't worry about it. So the other point to remember here is that groups like Hope Not Hate are liars. They've been proved to be liars. They have got a left-wing political agenda. Matthew Collins gone up there praising the Communist Party. Communism's killed more people than cancer. It is one of the vilest ideologies on the planet that's been responsible for billions of deaths on loads of continents. So we should take what they say with a pinch of salt. They're experts that seem to come into these newspapers all the time. I have not once been interviewed by any of these so-called experts on the far right, on the Homeland Party, on my past, or anything like that. It just doesn't exist. And then when they point to these things, so they go, oh, you've got this young man who 6 years ago was seen, in this extremist organization. And my response is yes. And what is he doing now? He's come involved with us. We've turned his life around, and he's engaged in community politics, doing good. Anybody who doubts that, this way, there's a lad in Scotland, young lad, a fantastic young lad, James Monroe, who they constantly throw up, who is now one of the best community politics activists up there in the northeast of Scotland. They've got a great team up there in Aberdeen, Dundee, Forfar, incredible team, and he's one of that and he's published an article on our website talking about his the road to redemption we've given him from starting to get involved with one of these spicy extremist groups, who then been told, you're doing wrong, James. What you need to be sensible nationalism. Here's community politics. We've turned that lad's life around. He recently produced videos online. That's real world testimony about what we do. If I go into any of these circles and I speak to any of these young people in these groups, it's not because I'm wanting to recruit these, Hollywood stereotypes. I'm wanting to pull them out of it. I'm wanting them to stop damaging the reputation of nationalism and be a productive member of society that shows nationalism in the best light possible. So I have got nothing to fear for these people. They deplatform us, they lie about us, they try to dox people. The best medicine for these people is to be open and confident because they don't come after you. What they're trying to do is target the people who are worried and have got fear and get them away from nationalism. It's a tried and tested method. But for me, one of the problems actually is there are people who are desperate to be named in these people. They look for there's one of what's the state of hate report. People actively want to be named in that. That's ridiculous. That for me is retarded. Stop giving these people oxygen. Stop mentioning them. If you go and look at their social media, there's very little engagement. There's very few likes. The comments are all against what they say. And if it's not an article that mentions a patriot, there's no engagement. And then when they do mention a patriot, all the nationalists, all the patriots jump in, have a look, boost their figures. They do all the comments. See, if you starve these people of oxygen, they wouldn't be able to do the damage they do. And that's as simple as, yeah.
I want to talk to you about a divisive figure. Now, I did ask you this question, whether you'd be okay for me to speak to you about him, a certain Tommy Robinson. And the reason why he's interesting is because he has an army of fans that basically worship the ground he walks on, which is fair enough. People are quite right to do whatever they want to do. But he comes with millions, I would say, of people that may well find themselves politically homeless as well, based on current events. Now, recently, his right-hand man, Richard Inman, has climbed a ladder within UKIP. So it very much looks like UKIP are getting into bed with the Tommy movement. So I want to get your opinion on him. And I also want to answer whether you think that is a good move politically or political suicide.
Okay, yeah. So, as I said to you, there's no question that I don't mind being asked. I'm an open book.
I appreciate
So
that.
for me, the you cannot deny that Tommy Robinson has been successful in raising some topics in the media and make them known. But
Absolutely.
I think he's been very disingenuous, for example, on grooming gangs. The BNP were the first people to raise the issue of grooming gangs. We got councillors elected on that ticket, and that is often kind of memory hold. And people think, oh, Tommy's the man who did this. No, he didn't. Tommy jumped on the bandwagon very late, but he has done good to highlight it. But I also feel that he has wasted a golden opportunity to get people active and working. As I've said, if all these people who go on a demonstration, they pay money to go to travel to a place, they have a good time out, but quite often, a lot of them get drunk, stick things up their nose, and disgrace the action. The vast majority don't, and I've got to say, I have enormous respect for a lot of these people that go to the demonstrations. I just feel that they've been led down the garden path, and the hero worship for Tommy does surprise me really, because in all these 15 years, he has achieved nothing. And he has taken millions of pounds out of the nationalist struggle. The last one, I believe, he mentioned that there was 1.2 million raised for the court case, and then he pled guilty and went away. What happened to all that money? The offence he committed was he was told not to do, and he did it. It just doesn't sit right with me. But every time they meet up, and say there's 40,000 of them meet up, if even one of the people on that podium address the audience and said, go back home to your hometowns and villages and cities and engage in community politics, take leadership role, take power away from the liberal progressives, they could change society. But they don't. They're not interested. I believe he's aligned himself with different political things in the past. I'm going to be honest. I think there's nobody on the right or of patriotic bent who comes anywhere close to the Homeland Party. We are the only serious outfit. I think the other people, they don't engage in community politics. Their use of the word remigration is distorted. They can't even identify who the ethnic English, Scots, Welsh, Northern Irish are. Their remigration policy is based on British values, which change every 20 years. It's utter nonsense. If you wrap yourself in a flag and saying Rue Britannia, apparently you're as British as the next man. It's nonsense, really. So how do they implement a policy where they can't even decide who should be on that list? It's foolhardy. I don't think they're serious. If there's people today still marching on the streets when they've seen that it did nothing, even in the 1970s for the National Front, they binned it because it did nothing. They are simply using it to get attention and bring in money. And where do they put that money? I don't know, but it's not into community activism. It's not into winning power. We did something just yesterday that I don't know if you've heard of Gavin Bobby. They call him the Mosque Buster. He's challenged 100 applications to build mosques and won 66 of that 100 times. Incredible man. And we've had this wee surge in membership, 500 new members in the past month. We're feeling a little flush. The treasurer might not be completely happy that I've said that, but I think so. My partner Claire came to me yesterday. Said, "Have you seen what Gavin's posted? He's completed. Nobody's helping. He's got this thing. The case he thinks he can win. Can we do anything?" So I just got onto a meeting with the guys. Says, "Guys, can I get 950 to pay for this?" Unanimously, everybody said, "Yeah, brilliant idea." And even the treasurer for once said, "Yeah, go on, you can spend money." So I said, and do it. And he was saying that there's no other political party has ever done that for him. They're only asking what he can give to them, what benefit they can get out of it. And for us, it wasn't about that. We didn't ask him for anything in return. There was no strings attached. We just said, "Gavin, love what you're doing. You're doing the same as us. You're fighting the system. You're beating the system. We've got a wee bit of money in the kitty because of the surge in membership. Before we spend it, can we help you fight this case?" And he was delighted. And that's the difference between us and all these other groups. I've never seen any of these groups properly engage with community politics. Some of them stand in elections and do nothing. They just do publicity stunts. That's not our way. I think that's an American thing. I love American people. We've got lots of great friends in America, a lot of good members in America, but American style politics does not work in the UK. And all this pantomime stuff, this plastic patriot stuff, does not change society. And that's what we want to do. We want to defend our views. That community in Leicestershire, if we stop that mosque happening, will have a tangible benefit for the 950 quid we invest in this, and would benefit the community. That and Gavin's told us no other political party has ever done that.
I quite believe it. Andrew has said, when will there be more Homeland merchandise to be able to purchase? And he's talking like cups and hoodies, and where can people get some merchandise?
When the Treasury team gets more volunteers, there we go. That's my hard sell for we triage people when they come into the party. So the aim is when anybody joins the party, either the regional organizer, the branch organizer will phone these people up and say, "Welcome to the party. Any questions you got? What skills have you got? Could you utilize them in the party?" It's a get to know you thing, and we try to utilize absolutely every can board. So it's not us trying to delve into people's details and that, but we want to utilize every single person we can get to make our party bigger and better and win quicker. So we've obviously they'll have to do the data protection stuff and all the rest of it if they're going to be in any of these key roles like Treasury. But we've got a small but dedicated Treasury team led by the fantastic Daniel Gale. Prior to that, Jerome O'Reilly was doing a fantastic job. He's now the Welsh RO. We've got an incredible team. But we need more people. So it's about, if you've got any of these skills that will help, accounting, managing fundraising, running a shop, sourcing merchandise. I know he's speaking to somebody now, and the plan is we are getting a proper shop up and running. Can I tell an exclusive to you, Mark, and your audience?
Absolutely.
Our big remigration conference that is coming on the 26th of April. I believe there are probably less than 20 tickets left. So if you're wanting there, you need to do it quickly. But we are going to be selling an amazing bit of merchandise that is remigration related at that conference that all ages of the family are going to love. So we will not advertise it, or we won't have. We might advertise, but we won't make it available for sale until the conference. So the people at the conference will get first dibs on it, and then if there's any left, we'll sell them. If it's a big sale, we'll get more in. But we are going to expand the merchandise, but we do actually need more volunteers to help with help with running a shop and stuff like that. It's low priority for us because we're a political party. We want to win in local communities. So there's a lot of things that we could be doing. And again, it probably goes to show how different we are from these other parties. We're not focused on selling you stuff. That it's an afterthought for us. But we do. We want to have caps. We want to have proper polo shirts. Also, we'll sell the flags. All the things you'd expect. But we need a bigger team to do that because all our guys are working hard.
So did you say tickets were still available for the conference? Where is the conference?
26th of April, Saturday, 26th of April in the East Midlands. If you go onto our website, and you should be able to find the link to the sales. I think tickets are £40. It's £5 for a bus, so it's very cheap as well. You're getting the incredible Mr. Renaud Camus from France, one of France's greatest writers. You're getting the incredible Lena Cotre, AFD state MP, Ali Cave from the Homeland Party speaking, and Rick Munn from No Risk, No Reward, an incredible man from Northern Ireland. One of the, again, like Mark, one of the few people who's had the courage to interview us and platform us. He's incredible. You're going to love his speech as well. So 4 incredible people, and then a Q&A. It's going to be a phenomenal day.
East Midlands is my neck of the woods, so I'll be quite interested in that. So I will be very surprised if people don't watch this and agree with pretty much everything you've said, to be honest. I mean, why wouldn't you? It's all sensible, like you say, sensible politics. If people are interested in joining the Homeland Party, how can they do that? Can you just give us the website where they need to go? How much is membership, by the way, Kenny?
Membership is only £36 a month, which equates, 36, not a month, that's rubbish.
Okay, that's
the first bad thing I've said all day. £36 for the year. You sign up on the website, homelandparty.org/join. That equates to £3 a month. That's less than a pint these days. If you went, if I came into your town and met you in the pub, I'm sure you'd buy me a pint. So this is even cheaper than buying me a pint if I come to visit you. So join the party. And like I say, we encourage people to be activists, but that doesn't mean everybody has to be. The majority of people who join a political party aren't activists, but that the very mere action of paying that £36 helps us. It costs £80 or £84 for 5,000 leaflets to be delivered to one of our activists or one of our branches. So you can see by that, if 3 people sign up, you're leaflet in a town. Every penny that comes in is spent. Our Treasury Department, who I speak so highly of, are very open. That's one of the other things we pride ourselves in the Homeland Party, that we are not like other parties. People can get the full details of how we spend the money. Our treasurer, it's written into our constitution, has to explain at every annual conference how every penny's been spent. We do that. We're open with that. We've just had incredible media training over in Germany. This the FD at the Bundestag. We've got amazing training. Many people have seen the videos produced already. But the kit that we've been advised to buy, it costs even for the first 4 people that we want to produce for, it's going to come to about 6K, 6 grand. And we can't afford that at the moment. But if more people join with all their £36, it'll help that. Better still, so if people could donate to help towards that. You know, we're needing teleprompters, proper cameras, lighting, the backdrops, the microphones. That's something I need to get. You know, so everything costs money, but we make every penny really, really stretch. And joining is the most important thing for me. You give a morale boost to local branches, even if you're not an activist. We're fostering competition within the branches where, you know, Steve Laws has got bragging rights at the moment. He's mocking all the other officers because his branch is bigger than everybody else's. But all along the list of branches, they're all trying to outdo each other. Even at regional level, the ROs are all, you know, saying I'm better than you, or my team's bigger than yours, or we're more active than yours. I love that sense of competition, and that can only happen if people join the party. You also shape the direction of the party and where we go. Reform don't do it. I don't think the other parties do either. They're left with, you know, 1 or 2 people in the leadership roles. We've got leaders all over the country.
I genuinely believe there are thousands of people that don't know where to turn at the moment. And, you know, like I just said, I'll be very surprised if people don't agree with everything you said. And listen, why not? You know, I've been very impressed with you tonight. You've answered all my questions, which is great. So let's see if we can give you a record month in membership. I will be doing that myself. I just want to
thank you very much.
I just want to thank you, Kenny.
That's incredible.
I know you're a busy man. You work as well, so you've come out your way to come and speak to me, and I really do appreciate it. If you're watching this and you've been as impressed as I am, then reshare the video. Let's get it far and wide. Let's get it to as many places as we can, and ultimately, let's get behind somebody who obviously talks a lot of sense. Kenny, it's been an absolute pleasure. If there's anything I can do to help moving forward, then just DM me and we can go from there.
Fantastic. I'm blown away, Mark. That ended is perfect for me. Just thank you. Yeah. And I'll just echo what Mark said. Please sign up and join, folks. That's what we want. We want good quality people like Mark and yourselves on board.
Kenny, thank you so much. Thank you.